Hi there, my name is Gary Goldberg. I'm from Johannesburg, South Africa. I've been a chronic cluster headache sufferer for the past 37 years. I've tried everything. I went through the oxygen, I went through the painkillers, I went through every single treatment known to mankind. I think every single painkiller that there was on the market. I tried everything. I put my family literally through years and years, starting with my parents when I first got it at the age of 18. I actually thought I was dying. I wasn't sure what was going on. And I got diagnosed with cluster headaches. I got them every year for the last, as I said, 37 years. It went from 1 year from the right side to the left side, and then left side to the right side, and it was sometimes even both sides. And the pain that I had was just absolutely excruciating. It was just something where I got to the stage where I actually wasn't sure what to do. And I'm not a suicidal kind of person, but I can tell you now that having this pain and having these unbelievable weeks and weeks of sleepless nights, not being able to sleep, not being able to eat properly, and as I said, putting my family through this trauma together with me through the trauma, there was basically one thing left to do, and that was take myself out. And I wasn't ready to do that. I've still got a lot of years ahead of me. Not only that, my wife and myself traveled all over the world. We went to every continent in the world. We landed up in Thailand at certain people who had the so-called cure for cluster headaches, which of course just never materialized, never worked. I went through all the protocols. I went through everything that I had to do, and nothing worked. And one day I bumped into a friend of mine who actually he phoned my phone, and I couldn't answer my phone because I was unfortunately having one of these cluster attacks. And he got my wife on the phone, and she said, no, Gary's having an attack and he can't come to the phone. And he said, please ask him to call me because I think there may be a solution. And I'd heard these solutions from everybody, and really I wasn't really quite open to any more suggestions and any more solutions, albeit that I was so tired of taking all the drugs which weren't working. They were making me ill in other ways. They'd subdue the pain for a certain amount of time. I was in and out of hospital having all sorts of pain-killing injections, pethidines, morphines, and really that doesn't help. It's just it's a tag-on effect where you get all these crazy headaches after those, so they're all side effects. Anyway, I phoned this friend of mine back, and he said to me, look, there was a lady in his office who suffered with cluster headaches for 15 years, also went through major trauma, put her family through the major trauma, and she landed up at the headache clinic with Dr. Elliot Shevel. And this was a name that I'd heard before, but unfortunately I hadn't really taken much notice of it because I didn't believe that there was anything that anybody could really do. This was an affliction that I was going to have to live with for the rest of my life. And I spoke to this lady, and she said to me, look, it's worth it. It's worth a visit. Go to the headache clinic. She said, all I can tell you is that after 15 years, she said, Dr. Shevel did a procedure on her, and for the last 3 years, she hasn't had a headache. She hasn't even had a hint of a headache. And that for me was pretty good news. That was something that I actually was the light at the end of the tunnel, was not the incoming train. So I decided to take the bull by the horns and go and see the headache clinic. Well, let me tell you something. The treatment, firstly, from the people in the reception to all the doctors, all the nurses, all the staff there was just absolutely unbelievable. The empathy and the sympathy from these people was just something that I'd never experienced before. It was something that when I saw somebody sitting in the waiting room who was going through a cluster attack at the time, they immediately took this person through, sorted them out put them onto an oxygen, gave them medication for the pain, basically looking to solve that particular person's problem at that instant. They seem to know what cluster headache are about. They know what the pain is about. They know exactly how to treat these things. And then my journey started with the headache clinic. And I had a whole barrage of tests which they did at the headache clinic. I didn't have to go and travel anywhere else and go and see all various different departments. They did x-rays, they did blood tests, they did nerve tests, they did muscle tests, they did all the tests that I needed. And when I eventually came to, after all the tests had been done, I went and had a consultation with Dr. Shevel, who, in my opinion, is probably one of the most empathetic doctors that I know on this planet. And I asked him, he actually asked me, where do you think your headaches are coming from? And I had a fair idea because my wife and myself had been studying this because of this affliction. And I actually said to him, no, you tell me where my headaches are coming from. And he said to me, his belief was the arteries between the skull and the scalp are the culprits. And I said, okay, doc, now we can continue talking. Because everybody else had tried to do brain scans and CAT scans, which basically meant nothing, because at the end of the day, the pain wasn't in the brain, the pain was outside of the brain. And Dr. Shevel said to me, look, he believed that he could help me, and I was prepared to take that chance because having gone through what I'd gone through over all these years, I decided that it was worth a go. And I saw Dr. Shevel on the Monday. I had a scan on the Thursday, and Dr. Shevel did the arterial cauterization surgery on the Friday morning, which was absolutely unbelievable. Again, the empathy, the sympathy, the care that I got from everybody around me was just absolutely phenomenal. To cut a very long story short, I haven't had a headache now since the surgery. I haven't had a symptom since the surgery. Dr. Shevel guarantees his work, so any time in the future that if I do, which I don't believe that I will because I'm feeling like a different person, if I needed any more assistance or any more surgery, Dr. Shevel would do it at his own cost. There's no doctor in the world that you don't pay for return visits. And I must be quite honest that the relief to my family, the relief to my friends, the relief to my medical aid is actually quite unbelievable. At the end of last year, I landed up with still savings in my medical aid, which is unheard of. The previous years, all of my savings went on medication, went on every type of drug that you could find that the doctor seemed to know. I was on a tablet called Relpax, which was at 200 Rand a tablet. So you can imagine what that does to your medical aid. So I was depleted before sort of April or May during the year. Last year, for the first time since I've had medical aid, I actually had a surplus of funds at the end of the year, which I wasn't quite sure what to do, so I actually went and had some dental surgery. So that was great, and I'm ever indebted to Dr. Shevel and his team. It's just absolutely incredible how these people care about you, how they feel for your pain, and they want to do something to help you. So for anybody who is even questioning the headache clinic, don't. Really, it has turned my life around. I'm 37 years, as I said, with cluster headaches. I'm now free of pain. My family is free of pain. I'm free of suffering, and I cannot talk more highly of Dr. Shevel and his team at the headache clinic. So I thank you very much for listening to my story.